Title IX, dollar signs. Finding anyone who is less interested in professional sports than I would be a Herculean task. Watching sports is not my cup of tea. And unless I have met one of the players on the field, my interest in sports ball is in the first percentile. And yeah, that includes championships and college teams. Who's my favorite for the big game? Don't know, don't care. I'd rather watch a play. My first experience attending a professional sporting event was circa 1983 when I went to a Hartford Whalers hockey game with friends and my future wife. My next up at bat was when my wife and I attended an Atlanta Braves baseball game spring of 1987 with work colleagues. Fast forward 3 decades, and there's a huge uptake in my attendance rate. Not because I care, but because our 1983 progeny younger son does. Sean has forced me to see a handful of Baltimore or Indianapolis Colts games. And for the last decade, my wife and I have gifted him 4 or 5 tickets for Colts games. Games I've usually attended with Sean and my wife, but have also passed up for my older son, his wife, and my grand one to go watch the Gladiators. I've also been coerced to watch the Tampa Bay Rays when we lived in FLA, the Red Sox while visiting Boston, and the Colorado Rockies when we were in Denver. My total attendance to college and pro games hovers around a dozen, and the sure money bet is that I will fall asleep sometime during the game. I like to be active, but I don't care about sports, and if you do, that's great. I hope your team wins. Despite my near zero interest in sports, the phenom known as Caitlan Clark captured my attention as the University of Iowa player earned GOAT status during spring of 2024. Ms. Clark was able to keep my attention for months rather than minutes, not only because of her virtuosity, but also because I lived 25 miles north of Hawkeye Land for 20 years, and 10 years after leaving Cedar Rapids, news out of Iowa City is still likely to catch my attention. I semi-paid attention to the college basketball championships and rooted for Miss Clark. She and her team did phenomenally well, and their loss to UConn made me sad. But her ascension to the number 1 WNBA draft pick pleased me enormously. Until the discussion turned to the inequality of Ms. Clark's salary. Caitlan Clark's $76,535 contract makes her the highest paid WNBA player, while Stephen Curry's $52 million places him as the highest paid NBA player. And this 678 times higher pay for Curry discrepancy has many people up in arms. Knowing nearly nothing about the WNBA and NBA, I did some quick fact checking and discovered that the NBA is composed of 30 teams and has 560 players. The Women's National Basketball Association is composed of 12 teams, and each team has either 11 or 12 players for an approximate total of 140 players. Total WNBA revenue was around $200 million in 2023. For 2024, they'll be playing 36 regular season games. Meanwhile, the NBA raked in $10 billion in 2022 and plays 36 regular season games. The WNBA's $200 million gross dollars divided by their 140 players equals 1,428,571 brought in per player. The NBA's $10 billion gross dollars divided by 560 players equals $18 million brought in per player. The NBA pays an average of 50 times more in comparison to gross dollars collected than does the NBA, while the average NBA player earns 12.5 times more than the average WNBA player. As stated at the top, I don't understand the attraction of sports, but I was curious how the math worked out, so I did a little digging for comparison. If you want women ball players to earn more, then attend their games. If you want to live your best life, try to stay active physically. And if you want others to enjoy their best lives, stay active politically. But before we get up in arms over inequities, It's in everyone's best interest to do a little fact checking so we can compare bananas to budgets with our feet on the ground as we try to score points for our teams. Congratulations, Caitlan Clark. I hope you have a great season with the Indiana Fever.